ceiling traits onwards.
Okay.
Then organ
It's not
level.
present in ceiling trait onwards, ceiling traits, because onwards, if you go, like if you go to platyhelminthes, then organs are there. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. Tissue is
Then
always there. Like, see, organisms that will have organs will for sure have tissues. But here we are talking about the highest, like maximum organization that they can reach. Okay.
yes, sir.
Yeah.
Then we
Continue.
have organ level of organization, in which the tissues are grouped together to form organs, and each organ is specialized for a particular function.
Okay.
And it is in platyhelminthes. And the last is organ system level. Organs associate to form physiologically functional systems like digestive
Correct.
system, nervous system, respiratory system, and so on. And this organization is present in annelids onwards, I think so.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Then we
Right.
did
Annelid
the,
onwards, all of us have organ system. Correct.
yes, sir. Then we did two types of digestive system, that is complete and incomplete. In complete digestive system, we have two openings, mouth and anus, for the separate input and output. But in incomplete or blind digestive system, there is only single opening that performs as both mouth and anus. And incomplete digestive system is present in platyhelminthes.
Yes.
Then we had two types of circulatory systems, open and closed. In open circulatory system, the blood is pumped out of the heart directly into cells and tissues of body. And in
Correct.
closed circulatory system, blood is always circulated within the blood vessels, which can have different thickness.
Correct.
Then we had the three types of symmetry: asymmetrical, bilateral symmetry, and radial symmetry. So in asymmetrical organisms, they have no division plane which can divide the organism into two equal halves. And
Right.
example is the sponges. Then in bilaterally symmetrical organisms, body of the organism has one plane which can divide it into two identical halves, and it is present in annelids. Then we have radial symmetry. Any plane passing through the central axis of body divides the organism into two equal halves. So we can have multiple planes of division, and example is coelentrates, echinoderms, and ctenophora.
Correct.
Then we had the germinal layers, also called embryonic layers. So ectoderm is the outermost layer, then middle layer is mesoderm, and the innermost is endoderm. And diploblastic organisms have ectoderm and endoderm. So they have cells in their body arranged in two germinal layers, external one called ectoderm and inner one called endoderm. And there is also an undifferentiated layer called mesoglia that is present between the ectoderm and endoderm.
Yes. Right.
Then second type is triploblastic animals, in which we had ectoderm, mesoderm, and endoderm as well. And example is platyhelminthes onwards. And diploblastic example was coelentrates.
Correct.
Then
Right.
at
So
last,
this is, yeah.
sir, you
Great.
told that ectoderm gives rise to nervous system and mesoderm forms the circulatory system.
Yes, these are some important ones that you should remember. I'll tell you about other organs as we will as we'll move forward, which germinal layer they are derived from. Okay. But we are just doing the fundamentals of animal kingdom. On what basis do we classify? So these are all the factors, like symmetry could be one, level of organization could be one, or the germinal layer, what kind of germinal layer they have is one. Now today let's start with the other fundamental concepts. So let me start today. Is today 19th September. So today we are going to start with a concept called coelom. Hey Hiram,
Hello.
good evening. Yes, good
Good
evening. How are
evening.
you?
Yeah, I'm
You
good. How are
joined.
you?
You joined late, right? I'm good. I'm good. You just joined right. We were waiting for you. Yes, tell me. Have a
Yeah.
question?
So I have a question. So last class
Yeah.
you said that area near the cartilages do not bleed, right? So is it due to the less amount of blood vessels in those areas?
Yes, it is also because they are less amount of blood vessels, and some regions do not need heavy blood supply to maintain or sustain. Okay, so tissues for that matter, organs need very heavy supply of blood. But if you see areas which, like, for example, the eyes do not need that much of a blood supply to sustain as an organ as compared to any other organ. So the ear pinna means the part of the ear which forms the earlobe. There, like below the cartilage, like, so outer ear is made up of cartilage and skin over it. So if you touch your ear, you can actually fold it, right, and then it comes back to the original shape. The same thing happens with the tip of your nose. So there is a bone till some region, like 20-30% from the skull. After that, cartilage takes over. So blood supply is less. Okay, as compared to soft tissues. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay, very well. So we will start today with a concept called coelom. Coelom means body cavity. Now, what do we mean by a body cavity? It's not like any cavity, any empty space in the body can be called as body cavity. There is a specific way to make a body cavity. And to understand body cavity, it's important that you understand that everything in the body is made up of three layers: ectoderm, endoderm, and mesoderm, right? Yes or no? So as I told you that there are uh, organisms which can be diploblastic or triploblastic, correct? So if an organism is diploblastic, which means it just have a ectoderm and a endoderm, then in a diploblastic organism there is no concept of body cavity. Is it clear? Body cavity is formed in mesoderm. And which organisms have mesoderm? Triploblastic. So you can just understand that only triploblastic organisms can possess a body cavity. But it does not mean that all triploblastic organisms have a body cavity. So triploblastic organisms can be of two types, three types actually. The one with no body cavity, the other with a false body cavity, which might look like body cavity, but it is not a body cavity, and the one with a true body cavity, actual body cavity. Okay, do you understand? So only triploblastics can have it, but all triploblastics will have it is not true. Some might have and some might not. But a diploblastic cannot have a body cavity because body cavity is lined by, or coelom is formed by mesoderm. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So write down, body cavity is the empty space between the body wall. It is the cavity means empty space, right? It is the empty space between the body wall and the gut. Okay. Now gut, inside the gut. So if I open my mouth, so our mouth also is a cavity. We call it oral or buccal cavity. Then our esophagus, food pipe, also is a cavity. Then stomach is a cavity. But will I call stomach and intestines as a body cavity? No, it is not a body cavity, because if you see, let me draw it for you. Let's say, let me draw for a human. Okay. So So if a human opens a mouth like this, so there is a cavity which goes, right? Then you have a head, let's say, pardon my drawing skills for that matter. Just let's understand it. Why or why not? Okay. So let's say this is what I'm making in blue is the body cavity, is the gut lining. So it starts from one end, it goes, and then you know that there is a stomach, right? A big part, right?
Yes.
Then there's intestine, it is all coiled together, but I'm not making a coiled part for the sake of simplicity. Small intestine, large intestine, then it opens with a rectum. So it starts at one point and ends at one point, right? So if you see, it is a continuous empty space. Opens at one end and it's also open at other end. This is called complete digestive system. Yes or no? So technically, if I put any substance, anything from the mouth, and if it is non-digestible, it can come out through the rectum, completing, like journeying through the body. You understand? But that is
Yes, sir.
not body cavity. Body cavity is this region. So between this gut lining and this body wall, you see this cavity, this region, this is where all the organs are present: liver, pancreas, so liver, kidneys, pancreas, heart, lungs, right? You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
So this is the body cavity between the gut and the body wall. And write down, this body cavity is lined by mesoderm. This body cavity is lined by mesoderm and is called a coelom. So this body cavity is lined by mesoderm, this part, okay, and is called coelom. Okay. Now, if it is lined by mesoderm, then only it is a true body cavity. Now, how does a true body cavity looks like? For the sake of simplicity, I will draw. Let's say this is the outer layer. What is the outer layer called? Or let me use this font. So this here is the outer layer of the body. What is the outer layer called?
Ectoderm.
Very good. Ectoderm. So let me make it a little thicker. So this is your ectoderm. Okay. Now this is the inner layer. If these two are joined together and there is no mesoderm in between, then the organism is diploblastic. So we are not talking about diploblastic here. So ectoderm and endoderm. And if they have space in between, clearly there will be something present in between, right? So if that something which is present in between is like this, so this is the mesoderm that I'm drawing. And if the mesoderm lines both the ectoderm and the endoderm, and of course they will be connected together at certain points, but do you see, so this is your mesoderm. But do you see, due to the arrangement of mesoderm, there is a true cavity here. So this is a cavity, right? This is also a cavity. Organs can be made here. You understand?
Yes, sir.
So this is called a coelom, a true body cavity. You understand? Both Aisha and Niram?
Yes, sir.
So these organisms which have a true body cavity are called coelomate. So write down, animals possessing a true coelom lined by a mesoderm are called coelomates. Okay, are called coelomates. So in this body cavity, your vital organs are present. So examples are annelids above. Annelid, mollusca, arthropoda, echinoderms, and chordates and hemichordates. So above annelids, all the phylums from between annelids and chordates, all the phylums are coelomates. Annelid, mollusks, arthropods, echinoderms, hemichordates, and chordates. Coelomate is clear?
Yes,
Coelomate clear, people? Now, in some cases, as I told you, again, let's say this is the ectoderm. Okay, let me make it a little thick. So this is an ectoderm, true ectoderm. And then same, this is a endoderm. Clear? Inner layer. But the mesoderm in this case is not a continuous layer. Okay. Now, one more thing. Don't think that there is no space. There is a space here. Okay. Because these are layers. There has to be empty space in between inside the endoderm. But the mesoderm in this case is not a lining, proper lining. But what happens? The mesoderm is present as scattered pouches. You understand? So there is a mesoderm present like this. There is a mesoderm present like this. So if they are present as scattered pouches, and then there is a mesoderm present like this, let's say. So now there are two kinds of cavities that you can see. One which is, sorry. Okay, just 1 second. One which is here. Can you see this cavity? This is also a cavity, right?
yes, sir.
And this is also a cavity, right? Technically, this whole cavity should be lined with the mesoderm like this to be a true cavity. But here, this cavity is known as a pseudo. The word pseudo means false. Pseudocoelom, like a false body cavity. In the organisms that have such kind of a organization where all their cavities are not lined by mesoderm, then they are called pseudocoelomates. Is it clear? So they have pouches. So these pouches are lined by mesoderm. So this cavity here is a mesodermic cavity, but again, it's not continuous. So you cannot make organs develop in this cavity, because for organs to develop, it has to be a continuous cavity so that there can be connections between organs. Make sense or no?
Yes, sir.
But here it's not possible. So these are called pseudocoelomate. So they seem like they have cavity, but the cavity is not functional. So write down. In some organisms, the body cavity is not completely lined by mesoderm. In some organisms, the body cavity is not completely lined by organisms. Sorry, by mesoderm. But the mesoderm is present, as scattered pouches, as multiple scattered pouches. between the ectoderm and endoderm. Between the ectoderm and endoderm. Okay. These are called pseudocoelomates. Now the example of pseudocoelomates are, so in pseudocoelomates there is a cavity, but that is not a true body cavity. So examples are Escalminthes, the roundworms. Write down. Example are Escalminthes. This is the spelling. Escalminthes, roundworm. And coelomate is annelids above, all the phylums above annelids. Annelids are worms, segmented worms. Escalminthes are roundworms. And the third scenario is, again, where you have, this is your ectoderm. Okay. Then you have your endoderm. And the in-between space is filled. Let me, there are 3 layers, but the in-between space is completely filled by the mesoderm tissue without any cavity. Do you understand? Now there are cells here, right? Many cells. I'm not making the cells. But do you understand the green layer is the mesoderm? Do you see
Sir,
any cavity
so
here?
no, sir.
No, right? So yes, what is your question?
All the 3 layers are joined together.
Yes, they're all stick together.
Okay, sir.
They're in tight junction. But all 3 are present. So there is no cavity here. And these types are called acoelomates, no cavity. Okay. No body cavity, not even a false one. So acoelomates. And the examples are, write down, the animals in whom the body cavity is completely absent. The animals in whom the body cavity is completely absent are called acoelomates, and examples are Platyhelminthes. Again, the word platy in biology means flat and helminthes means worms. So these are flat worms. So flat worms has no cavity. That's why they are flat. Can now you understand why their name is flat and why do they look flat? Tapeworm is a flat worm which lives in human intestines. It's like a tape, long tape, exactly flat like a tape. Can you now understand why flatworms are called flatworms? Because they have no cavity. So if there is no cavity in the body, they will be flat like a paper, right? All their layers are joined together. You can only be round or you can only have a girth when there is space in between your body. So roundworms have uh, false cavities, and coelomates, annelids onwards, there is a true cavity with true organs present. Organs are also present in roundworms. In some of these pouches, in some of these mesoderm pouches, there are organs, but then it is difficult for them to make multiple, so many organs and so many organ systems. So they are limited. All these 3 are clear: acoelomates, pseudocoelomates, and coelomates on the basis of body cavity.
So where are the organs present in acoelomates?
There is no organs present in acoelomates as such. Like even if they are present, they will be just embedded in the mesoderm or in the ectoderm, right? And they will be rudimentary, not very functional. So they cannot make connections and they cannot make organ systems. Okay. Do you
Yes, sir.
understand? Clear? Iram, have you joined through 2 accounts?
Yes, sir. I did actually.
Okay. Very
My
good.
laptop got cracked, so I'm just unable to.
Okay. Anyways, cool. So is body cavity coelom clear to you? No?
Yes, it is.
Very good. Now let me go to another fundamental property called segmentation in the body. Now the word comes from segment. What does segment word means? Segment. Segment means a fraction, right? A segment of anything.
Yes, sir.
Yes. So what happens in segmented organisms is that their body, you can actually see the body. So how many of you have seen earthworms? Any of you have seen an earthworm? You may not like it as an organism, but if you closely see an earthworm, do you see that earthworms has these kind of lines on its surface? And as you go towards the end, these lines become smaller and smaller. Have you seen this? Earthworm looks like this. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so earthworm has a segmented body, and these are called segments. Now, these segments are not just mere lines on the body. These segments actually divide the body both externally and internally into different compartments. Okay. And in each compartment, some organs repeat. Okay. So some organs are present in many compartments. For example, in this segment, there will be one pair of ganglia, then another, or for example, heart. So in earthworm, the heart has multiple chambers present in multiple compartments. Does it make sense? Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
So write down. In some animals, segmentation. In some animals, the body is both externally and internally divided into compartments. And these we are calling as segments. Compartments on segments with repetition of some organs. Okay. Now in earthworm, the example is earthworm, and in earthworm, these segments are called metameric segments. Okay. And this process of metameric segments is called metamerism. There are other different types of segments as well, but you just have to study this one. Other types are like, have you seen a honeybee?
Yes, sir.
Honeybees have big eyes. Let's say we'll look at a honeybee from the top. So they have a head, a thorax, and they have a abdomen like this, right? At the end, they have a sting, right? And you will see
Yes, sir.
that their body is also as a segmented. If you see a honeybee's body, have you seen a honeybee's thorax segmented like this? They have wings like here. Not made a great bee, but you can understand that their body is also segmented. That is also another kind of segmentation. Honeybees have segmented bodies. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. So earthworm is an example. That this is called segmentation. Simple, nothing more fancy in this. Just know that what is segmentation. So some organisms can be segmented. So all these are properties that I'm teaching you about animal kingdom. Apart from segmentation, there is something called notochord. Yes, very important. As we are moving up in the evolution, there is something called notochord. You know what is a notochord? You know what is a vertebral column, a vertebral vertebrata? What is a vertebrate? What is a vertebral column? Hiram. Figure it out. Just think about it. I'm giving you 1 minute. Just excuse me. I'll just take a quick break and I'll come, okay? In 1 minute. Think what is a vertebral column. Tell me what is a notochord and what is a vertebral column, a vertebra. Yes, I'm back. Am I audible? Hiram and Devangi. Am I audible? Devangi, Hiram.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Did you figure out what is a vertebra? What is a vertebral column? Yes,
So
no?
vertebral column is the combination of bones from the base of skull to the tailbone.
Yes, right. So basically it's your spine, right? Have you heard of the word spine?
Yes, sir.
We all have a spine which helps us to stand erect. Very commonly it's known as backbone. Backbone is vertebra. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
But do you know that vertebra is hollow? It's a hollow bone inside. Like there are 33 units, but if you see every vertebra, it's hollow. Like it looks like this. It's hollow from inside, and there are multiple bones stacked one over the other like this. They keep forming, going like this, and they form our spinal cord, right? Yes,
Yes,
no,
sir.
something. Yeah. What runs through that vertebral column, vertebra? The cord. This cord is called spinal cord, which runs through the center. But before this spinal cord or vertebra was it in place in a developing organism very early, like in embryonic development, there is something called notochord. Now, notochord is a rod-like structure which develops. It's a tissue which is mesodermally derived. It comes from mesoderm. Remember mesoderm, which
Yes, sir.
forms the body cavity. So who can have notochord? Only triploblastic organisms can have a notochord, right? If you are diploblastic, can you have a notochord?
No, sir.
No, because there is no mesoderm. If there is no mesoderm, there cannot be a notochord. So write down notochord is a mesodermally derived. Is a mesodermally derived rod-like structure. Or you can write dorsal rod-like structure. You know what is a ventral and dorsal now? We discussed this in one of the classes. You know, ventral, dorsal, lateral, anterior, posterior. There are few words that you have to know. Write down these words. Dorsal, ventral, anterior, posterior, lateral. Do you know all these words? Yes, no, something. Okay, let me give this you as homework. Figure it out today. If you cannot, then I'll tell you on Wednesday. I'll tell you dorsal for now. And dorsal is, we discussed it before also. If you put an organism on all its appendages facing the earth, then the part of the body facing the sky will be dorsal. So for a human, there are 4 appendages, two hands and 2 legs. If you make a human stand on all the 4 appendages on earth, touching the earth, then which part will be facing the sky? Our back, right?
Yes, sir.
So the back will become dorsal and the front will become ventral. So you have to look at, so you have to see organism on all the 4 legs. If there are no legs, then the way they move. For example, snake. So snake has a dorsal side where the scales are present, and on the ventral side which touches the ground when it is moving and slithering. For an insect, the wings are on the dorsal side and the belly is on the ventral side. For a cow, again, the backbone is on the dorsal side and the belly or the stomach is on the ventral side. You understand?
Yes, sir.
For a turtle also, dorsal and ventral, when all the appendages are on the ground. So this notochord is also derived from mesoderm and present on the dorsal side. It's a rod-like structure, dorsal rod-like structure present in an embryo. Present in an embryo during embryonic development or during early embryonic development. The notochord is only present in some animals. Notochord is only present in some animals. Earthworms do not have a notochord, okay? Only present in some animals. And these animals which have notochord in its embryonic development is called chordates. They are called chordates because they have cord. So the word chordates comes from this cord region. So notochord possessing organisms are called chordates. Humans are chordates. Okay. And the organisms who do not have notochord then they are called non-chordates. Okay, and you know which organisms are non-chordates? Porifera to echinoderms. Okay, Porifera, mollusca, ctenophora, okay, and echinoderms. They all are non-chordates. Beyond that, when you go, you start chordates. You know, humans, reptiles, mammals. Humans are mammals, so I'll take humans off. Reptiles, mammals, birds, amphibians, they are all chordates. Make sense? So everything that I have taught till now is clear. Devangi and Iram, all the fundamentals are clear.
Yes, sir.
Go over all of everything once and ask if you have any doubts. If you have any doubts, this is the time to ask. If you have no doubts, then come to this figure. And do you have any doubts? This figure summarizes this whole chapter in a nutshell. Then we just have to go to individual phylums and do the rest of the detailed study. That's all the chapter is all about. But if we understand this broader context, the chapter's grip, we get a grip of the chapter. Okay. Do you understand, everyone? Now let's begin. Can you see this that I'm sharing? I think it's readable, right? You can read at least.
Yes, sir.
So we start with kingdom. And the second thing is level of organization. That was the first criteria that we studied. We also studied symmetry as our second criteria. Body coelom as our third criteria. Okay. Then what were the other criteria that we studied?
Segmentation,
Segmentation and
notochord.
notochord, right? We'll talk about it later, but we basically do it on the basis of this first. So the kingdom is Animalia that we are studying, right? We know that all the animals are multicellular, yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Now kingdom Animalia can be divided on two levels. If it is multicellular, it cannot be unicellular, right? So there is no unicellular animal. Okay, there can be unicellular fungi, which is yeast, but there is no unicellular animal. There can be protozoa, which is unicellular, fungi, and bacteria, of course, are unicellular. So the level of organizations that is possible, the first possible level of organization is cellular level, right? And the second possibility is tissue, organ, and organ system, like cell onwards. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
If something is cellular level, can there be any symmetry possible in it? This is just a group of cells living together like a bunch. Can you say that any symmetry is possible? Let's go to symmetry. Look here. I told you the example for asymmetrical is sponges, right? Sponges come in the phylum Porifera, right? They are
Yes, sir.
asymmetrical because sponges are nothing but group of cells that live together, right? So do you think that there is any symmetry possible between these group of cells?
No, sir.
No. Hence, when we come here at the cellular level, we see mostly asymmetrical. By chance, there can be a sponge which looks radially symmetrical. That's an exception. But at cellular level, mostly things are asymmetrical. Make sense to you? Because cells are just randomly present with each other. And if they are cellular level, so first or at the first gate, we know that they are cellular, then they will have no symmetry, the second gate. Now, talking about body cavity, do you think that if something is just cells, it can form a body cavity? To form a body cavity, you need to form layers, right? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
But is a layer possible if only cells are present? No. So they are called acoelomates, right? There is no layer possible. Okay, no body cavity. And this is the first phylum, which is called Porifera. Phylum Porifera. Porifera is cellular level Porifera, and the examples in Porifera are sponges. Okay, you understood the first phylum?
Yes, sir.
Kingdom Animalia has these phylums. First phylum is Porifera. Sponges come under this category. Sponges are animals. Very good. Now let's go to the other possibilities. So at level of organization, there was a cellular level. The other possibility is tissue, organ, or organ system. These different levels. Now, from tissue onwards, it is possible to have symmetry because it's arrangement, right? Tissue arrange in a group. Now, this can be a lead, this can be a round spherical arrangement, or this can be a long arrangement, bilateral arrangement. So there is a possibility of symmetry happening. Now, there are two types of symmetries, radial and bilateral. So those organisms which among these which have tissue, organ, or organ system level and also have a radial symmetry, then but they do not have a body cavity. Again, they are acoelomates. Okay, they are two, either Coelenterata, which is the second phylum. Okay, Coelenterata, I'm writing second here. They are also called Cnidaria. The word Cnidaria comes from the word nidoblast. It comes from the word nidoblast. Okay, say something. Yes, no?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, the word nidoblast comes from, it means stinging cells. There are some jellyfish that sting. You know about it? There are some forms of jellyfish that stings. They have a cell which will sting you. So Coelenterata have these stinging cells. And examples are, have you heard of this creature called sea anemone? Sea anemone. Do you have internet right now? Both Iram and Devangi?
Yes, sir.
Search sea anemone and tell me. Can you do you understand what I'm talking about? The second phylum. Sponges, you all have watched SpongeBob. Both of you have watched SpongeBob SquarePants as a cartoon. Quickly Google sea anemone and let me know. Do you understand what I'm saying? Did it or not?
Yes.
Yes. Do you see that? Do you think you have seen that thing? If you must have seen movies or documentaries where some fish called this one clownfish. Clownfish live in sea anemones in close relationship. If you are totally blank, you have to say that, sir, I am seeing this thing for the first time in my life. I do not understand what it is. If you have seen it somewhere, you have to say that, okay, I understood what you're talking about. But you have to say things. Don't go mute. We are not seeing
Yes,
each other. We
sir.
are not.
Sea anemone I've seen.
Okay, good. So you understand what it is. Now the
So,
third, yes, Iram. Yes, Iram, tell me. You're mute. You said
so
something.
see,
Sorry?
I haven't seen these.
You have not seen sea anemone. Okay, we'll come to it. Okay, when we'll start this, I'll explain you with pictures. Don't worry. But remember that this is the second phylum, which is acoelomate, but has a radial symmetry. So both Porifera and Coelenterata or Cnidaria, we call the other name, both are acoelomates. Do you see this is the similarity that both are acoelomates? But where is the difference? Porifera is asymmetrical, but Coelenterata has a radial symmetrical. Same thing goes for Ctenophora. Ctenophora is the third phylum. And Ctenophora also are acoelomates and has a radial symmetry. So Coelenterata and Ctenophora are similar. But the difference is Coelenterata has stinging cells, cnidoblasts, but Ctenophora show they glow. Some of them have the property of glowing in the dark. They emit light. So have you seen these beautiful discovery videos where some jellyfish just glow in the water? No?
Sir, does it
Okay.
include planktons?
Not planktons. No, they are zooplanktons and phytoplanktons are unicellular organisms. Not that. Okay, I'll again show you some pictures later on, so don't worry about that. Just know that one example is pleurobrachia. These are jellyfish-like structures which glow in the dark. So they have, so sea anemone has stinging cells. You can write it in your notebooks. And pleurobrachia has bioluminescence. Bioluminescence, which means they glow, they emit light from their body. You all have seen Jugnu, right? Fireflies.
Yes, sir.
Fireflies also emit light from their body, right? That's called bioluminescence. So these are underwater organisms, aquatic organisms, Ctenophora. They don't sting you, but they glow in the dark. Coelenterata sting you and don't glow in the dark, but both are acoelomate and radial. Sponges are different from these three, but till here they are all diploblastic organisms. Write down from Porifera to Ctenophora. From Porifera to Ctenophora, all these are what did I do? diploblastic organisms. Does it make sense?
Yes, sir.
Only two layers. So there was no possibility of having a body cavity. Now, in the tissue organ or organ system level of organization, the second category was those who have a bilateral symmetry. So you will see that mostly radial symmetries are with acoelomates and all the or diploblastic organisms. Now acoelomates can also be is also possible when you have all the three cavities, which means you are triploblastic but you do not form the cavity. All the three layers are joint. So in bilateral symmetry there are three possibilities: without a body cavity, which is called acoelomates, but here the difference is the three layers are present. They have a possibility to make it, but they do not make it. That is Platyhelminthes, the fourth phylum. And I've already told you what do Platyhelminthes means. Platy means flat and helminths means worms. They're Platyhelminthes, they are flat worms. Why they are flat? Because they don't have a body cavity and all the three layers are flattened together. Other possibility is false coelom, a pseudocoelomates. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
And that is the fifth phylum, which is Aschelminthes. And what were Aschelminthes? They are round worms. Okay. And why are they round? Because they have a pseudo coelom. And then true coelom, which is called coelomates. So that contains annelid onwards. So this is phylum 6th, phylum 7th, phylum 8th, phylum 9th, phylum 10, and phylum 11. How many total phylums are there?
11.
11. And they all have true coelom. Make sense? But do you remember now what were the two other uh, parameters we studied after coelom?
Segmentation and notochord.
Segmentation and notochord. So first know that annelids and arthropoda, they may have segmented body. Okay. Phylum 6 and 7 they are segmented, whereas mollusca, echinodermata, hemichordata, and chordata are non-segmented. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Now, what is the other criteria? Notochord, right? So from annelid to echinoderm, okay, 6, 7, 8, and 9, they are all non-chordates. And for that matter, everything before that is non-chordate. Okay. Before this, there was no concept of segmentation, so forget about it. But all these 6, 7, 8, and 9 are non-chordates. Only 10 and 11. So 10 is hemichordate and 11 is chordate. Hemichordate, the word hemi means hemisphere. There is a sphere and there is a hemisphere. Hemi means
Half.
half. So hemichordates they're called half chordates because they come at the borderline. Why they come at the borderline? That I will tell you when we will come to this phylum in detail. But do you understand overall how are the 11 phylums connected?
Yes, sir.
Pakka? Take a look for everything that is written on the screen. and please ask question if you have any doubt. This is the crux. In short.
So
Yes.
echinodermates can also have radial symmetry.
Yes, that's an exception I'll talk to you about. You can see there is a star in echinoderms, right?
Yes, sir.
So this phylum 9, echinoderms, can exhibit radial symmetry or bilateral symmetry depending on stage. So their larvae are bilaterally symmetrical, and their adults sometimes are radial symmetrical. And the example of echinoderms is a starfish. So starfish larvae are bilaterally symmetrical, but their adults are radially symmetrical. That's an exception. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Iram, is it clear to you?
Yes, sir.
Very good. Look at it from the beginning, and what every parameter that you have studied till now, are you able to apply it here and understand all these 11 phylums? So basically this whole chapter is about reading these 11 phylums in some detail. That's all what the chapter is. So next two classes are going to be fact heavy, also with concepts, but I'm also going to give you some homeworks. So for that, for you to be able to do that homework, you need to understand this overall scheme. That's why I'm asking you that if you have any doubts, please ask me. Pay attention and tell me if you have any doubts. Otherwise, I'll move forward. Take 2-3 minutes. Let it sink in. Let it absorb. I know it's too much in just one class to know and absorb. But go through it and tell me. Take 2-3 minutes.
Sir,
Yes,
sir,
please go on.
so the vertebral column is also present only in the 10th and 11th phylum?
The vertebral column is only present in 11th phylum, to be very honest, like completely. In the 10th phylum, as it's called hemichordates, some part of their life have the chordate, have the notochord, the other part does not have. So they do not, why they are called hemichordates is right from birth to your death. If you have a vertebral column, sorry, if you have a notochord, then you are called a chordate. But if during some stage of your life you had a notochord which got diminished later onwards, then you're called hemichordates. Okay, so forever it will only be in chordates. Is it clear? Does it make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So no doubt. So let me give you, let me tell you how we are going to proceed from here onwards. So NCERT tells a lot, and I highly recommend you, and in fact I insist you that you have to read each and every line from NCERT of this chapter. But let's start with the first as an example, Porifera. So let's start with the first phylum, hashtag 1, phylum 1, which is Porifera. Now, what are we going to study in each phylum? This is just an example, and how will things be easier? So every phylum, we are going to study these bullet points. If there is a common name of the phylum or any other name. So for Porifera, they are commonly known as sponges. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Second thing we are going to study is their habitat. Where do they live? In bullet points. Okay, so they are marine, which means salt water. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Then bullet points always helps instead of big sentences. Okay, then we will see their symmetry and their level of organization. Tell me. So their symmetry is asymmetrical, right?
Yes, sir.
And level of organization is
Cellular.
cellular. Very good. Then we are going to study. After this, their reproductive, their mode of reproduction. How do they reproduce? And what is their development? Development. So development can be of two types. If they reproduce, they can reproduce either sexually or asexually. If they are reproducing sexually, then fertilization must be happening, right? So reproduction in this case can be both asexual or sexual. They can do both the things. Okay, but if they are sexual, then there is a then fertilization must be happening. Now fertilization can happen in two ways. One, the male gamete goes into the female body and fertilizes the female gamete inside the female body, or both male and female gametes come out of their respective bodies and get fertilized outside. For example, fish and frogs. You have seen fish and frogs. You must have seen frogs where there is a big frog and a small frog is sitting at the top of the big frog. Have you seen that in pictures? Often we mistake at their babies that the mother is carrying a baby, but that small frog is the male frog and the big frog is the female. They stay close when they have to reproduce, because When the female frog will start laying eggs, the male frog will start releasing sperms in the water at the same time. And here, both the gametes come out of their respective bodies and get fertilized in the open water. That's called external fertilization outside the body. In humans, it is internal. Male gametes, which are sperm, has to reach inside the fallopian tube of the female and fertilize the ovum there, inside the female gamete. Oh, sorry, inside the female body. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Is the difference between external and internal fertilization clear? So if reproduction is asexual, there is no point of fertilization. But if it is sexual, then we have to also know whether the development, whether the fertilization is internal or external. So in case of porifera, reproduction is asexual and also sexual. And in case of sexual, the fertilization is internal inside the female's body. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Then comes development. Now, development can be of two types: direct development and indirect development. So, development is of the baby. How does the baby develops? Now, direct development is where right from the birth, the baby looks similar to the adult, just smaller version, and then keeps growing to become bigger and bigger. For example, let me take two examples. Uh, Babies of butterflies, what are they called? Caterpillars. Have you seen caterpillars?
Yes, sir.
Do they look anything like a butterfly?
No, sir.
No, they look like worm, right? So butterfly lay eggs. From those eggs come out larva, which looks like a worm. That worm eats, becomes thick and fat, then forms a cocoon around itself, and inside that cocoon turns into a beautiful butterfly by the process of metamorphosis. And then when it is mature, it breaks the cocoon and come out as a butterfly. Now it looks like a butterfly. But it went through many stages: egg, larva, cocoon, and then became butterfly. And all these stages were very different from each other. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
This type of development is called a indirect development. Is it clear? Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Now let me take another example. Hen also lay eggs, right? Birds also lay eggs.
Yes, sir.
But whatever comes out of that egg, it looks like a bird, right? It is different in color and have less feathers. That's the difference. But it looks like a bird. It has a beak, it has two legs to walk on and two wings, right? Tiny, tiny. Over
Yes,
time,
sir.
it will just keep growing bigger and bigger, get more feathers. Their color will change, feathers color will change. But they were always birds to begin with, right? Out right from the birth or coming out of the egg, they were looking like their parents. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So that's called a direct development, where there is no intermediate stages, no larva, no cocoon, nothing. So in case of porifera, the development is indirect, which means they have a larval stage. So write down indirect development. Larva looks morphologically different. Morphology of flowering plants we just studied, right? So you understand what is morphology? Yes or no? People,
Yes.
yes or no? Wake up, don't sleep. Then, so how many things? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The seventh thing we'll know is about their sex. Whether they have they are monosexual, bisexual, hermaphrodite, what. So sexes. So there are two possibilities in biological kingdom. Sometimes in a species, the male and female are two different sexes. Like in humans, there is a male, different male, and a different female. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
But in some cases, like earthworm, both the male organs and the female organs are present in the same body. So there is no concept of a different male and a different female body. Do you understand this? So we call, if the sexes are separate, we say that sexes are separate male and separate female. But in case of porifera, sexes are not separate. And remember, these are the most simple kind of animals. So if sexes are not separate, if they are present in the same body, such organisms are called as hermaphrodites, where the male and the female sex is present in the same body, which means eggs and sperms are produced by the same body. Okay. And in the end, the last thing, eighth thing. So these 8 points we have to cover in all the kingdoms, all the phylums which are going to come the next. Just 8 points. No complexity, nothing. So last will be distinctive features. What do we mean by distinctive features? Something that is only present in poriferans and no other phylum. So what is their distinctive feature? Now they can be more than one. So first is that sponges have a water canal system. Okay. Water canals means they have small holes on the surface of their body through which water can move inside their body and go everywhere and then just move out. Is it clear? So they have holes
Yes, sir.
throughout their body. Just look at SpongeBob SquarePants. It has hole all through the body. Then water enters from every hole, goes into a central cavity, and then comes out. And when it is doing this, in this process, it is helping the sponge to get food, to do the exchange of CO2 and oxygen, and to remove waste. The water canal system has three utilities. It provides nutrition for food. It helps in exchange of respiratory gases because they do not have a respiratory system. And every cell has to take care of its own. So every cell will take respiratory gas from that water in this canal. And third, removal of waste. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And this central cavity which this water canal system has. So this water canal system has a central cavity. And this central cavity is called spongocoel. Remember coelom? So they don't have coelom, but they have a cavity which is of the sponge. So they are called spongocoelom. In short, called spongocoel. Makes sense to you or not?
Yes, sir.
And this spongocoel has specific cells called collar cells, which is again their distinctive property. Collar cells, they line the lining of the spongocoel. These collar cells have a name called choanocytes. Choano means collar and cytes means cell. So that's all you have to remember by heart about sponges, Porifera, kingdom Porifera. Is it clear? Sorry, phylum Porifera. Is it clear?
So do
This
we
makes
have
it,
to
yeah,
learn the function of spongocoel or collar cells?
simple. It's the function is very simple. No, what is there to learn? Spongocoel is the central cavity where water comes from all directions and fill. Then every cell will take what it needs from that, and every cell will discard all its waste there. Okay. Then the spongocoel will be empty. Again, it will get filled after some time. Again, it will get empty. That's the function. And the function is to provide nutrition, exchange the respiratory gases, and removal of waste.
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's simple. Okay. So this is the first distinctive feature. The second distinctive feature of sponges is that they have a skeleton made of spongin fibers or spicules. Okay. They have a skeleton made up of that's not present in any other phylum. Spongin fibers, or we also call that as spicules. Simple. So that is the second characteristic. First is water canal system. Second is spongin fibers. The name also comes from sponges only, spongin fibers. Okay. And tell me about, okay, and one more thing that I forgot before reproduction that we had to study. I'm writing it here. We have to learn how is their digestion, how is their digestive system. Reproduction के साथ साथ we have to also study their digestion, their digestive system. So how do you think where the digestion is taking place here? Do they have a stomach? Do they have organs? Do they have tissues? They have nothing. What do they have? They have just cells. They are cellular. So where do you think digestion will take place? Inside each and every cell, just like it happens in amoeba or bacteria, right?
Yes, sir.
So their digestion is intracellular. It's simple logic, nothing to remember much. You just remember some basics and then you know. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 things about every kingdom, and this summarizes everything about Porifera. Now read the NCERT. Now you have a homework. I'm giving you 2 phylums to cover. I covered Porifera for you on the similar account, on the similar notes, on the similar points. You have to cover Coelenterata, Ctenophora, and Platyhelminthes, 3 phylums. Okay. Write down your homework. Coelenterata, Ctenophora, and Platyhelminthes you have to cover along the same lines. Will you do that before you come on Wednesday? Divangi and Iram.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so do you have any doubts? 3 phylums you have to cover. Leave